So we got our first look at the James Gunn version of Superman, and here's why I wanted to make this video, because I am somewhere in the middle of the nerd and normie spectrum, probably erring closer to nerd, but I was much more on the Marvel side of the comic books growing up. So there's a lot of this stuff in here that I'm not real sure what it is, what it represents, who the characters are. And for this type of thing to be a financial success, it's people like me that don't really know everything that's going on that a trailer like this has to win over. That's why I think that you know, I'm going to say some things in this trailer review that might not come across as particularly pleasant towards the movie. And I'm I want to get this out there first as well. I'm a fan of James Gunn. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I think, made Rocket Raccoon one of the more intriguing characters in the MCU, that is just the cinematic universe. I don't think he's anywhere near that in the actual comic books, but as far as what was represented on screen, Rocket Raccoon became a certain level of complex for the MCU itself. So I am not coming at this from a combative standpoint, nor am I coming at this from the standpoint of someone who does not like comic book movies. I love comic book movies. This thing looked like the Arrowverse. The lighting, the sort of camera angles, I think, looked more like, this is one of the critiques that uh, Joss Whedon got for Avengers, is that it was shot like a TV show, not a movie. That's really a lot of how it felt in this trailer to me. So you add that with the color palettes, you add that with the exposure, and it just feels sort of empty. Like I said earlier, I like James Gunn, but one thing that's starting to worry me about his tone and tonality is he's a little bit like Taika Waititi, not terribly like Taika Waititi, in that Taika Waititi can't really have a serious scene. I think that James Gunn is good at having serious scenes, but I think that one of the small elements that always throws me off about his movies is there's something that is quote unquote cute but super powerful and or dangerous, and I don't know why this movie would need crypto. Um I guess kind of for the cutesy and relevant idea of having a dog named Crypto because of the cryptocurrency craze, but I don't think that dog is necessary to launch a cinematic universe. Maybe you work your way up to that. This has to be remembered, this is a reintroduction of the character of Superman. Reintroduction of the character of Superman. So something like Crypto, I just I don't understand where it falls so far, right? I don't understand what the need for that character would be at this level. Also, it is intriguing. So, the idea of Superman, the idea itself, not the character, the idea, it's difficult for a movie because, well, the guy's basically invincible. So, step one, page one of the script, a lot of intrigue is lost. So, to introduce the idea of Superman's weaknesses, obviously kryptonite, so early in the process, that is, the very first moment of the very first trailer, is probably a ploy at saying, look, there is going to be suspense in this movie. This isn't going to be a shoot 'em up, not literal shoot 'em up, but a rack 'em up by Superman. There's going to be suspense. There's going to be stakes. there will be wait, but I don't know I don't know if it's beneficial. I don't know that introducing Superman in that way, bloody in a snowy field, is necessarily the most fitting way to introduce the character. Intriguing, sure, perhaps. Just sort of, it felt off key to me, but we don't really know the key or tone of this movie, even through the first trailer. It does look to be a big world. You already have Hawkgirl, you already have a Lantern, you already have Crypto. This feels like a fully formed world, which is intriguing in its own right. We thought this was going to be a reboot. At least I think we thought. I have not kept up with the production sort of rumors or uh, any of that with this movie. I think that we were maybe even led to believe that this would be a reboot in the way that it would be the birth or spawning of a DC cinematic universe. It appears it is not that. It appears that this is one step into a fully formed world. You were jumping into the deep end, you were expected to know how to swim, and for better and worse, this universe might not care so much about the uninformed. That will make it feel sort of exclusionary to people who are uninitiated. It will, however, also be something that feels very fulfilling to a large fan base of DC comic fans that have never had what the MCU has become. And that has to be appreciated. The MCU launched in 2008. We are coming up fairly quickly on 20 years of MCU films. DC has never had that. As long as it felt like it took for us Marvel guys, DC has never gotten it. I refuse to count Batman versus Superman. That movie was a travesty, in my opinion. I am not one of the Snyderverse fans. I'm just going to skip that. But back to this. The whole idea of a fully formed universe is going to be appealing and intriguing because there is a little bit of the idea of sci-fi going into it. So sci-fi, science fiction. You are stepping into a world in science fiction that is fully formed, and it unravels to you as you work your way through the pages. What is possible in this world? Fantasy works the same way. Oftentimes, in cinematic universes, oftentimes in movies about comic book characters, you are introduced to a regular enough world before the elements of the fantastic are unraveled on you. Maybe I'm wrong, but looking at this trailer, it does not feel like there will be time for that to be true. You have so many characters already in this film, already in this universe, that it seems you're going to be from scene 1, minute 1, page 1 of the script, immersed in the fantasy world of DC. That is interesting because it is a different approach than often we get for comic book characters. And it is, I'm a fan of the slow boil. But for people who are not looking forward to being explained to, maybe this is actually preferable. Leaping into, for example, something like Game of Thrones, it's a completely different universe. You're expected to just figure it out as you go. I imagine that is the way that the DC James Gunn universe is going to feel. Sort of the last thing I have to say about this, and I think that this is important because comic books have always been a visual medium. We met all of these characters for the first time by seeing them. So the visual representation on the screen of these characters is fairly important. David Cornsweet looks like Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeves had a baby. Henry Cavill is the sort of thick, muscular, alpha Chad kind of guy, versus Christopher Reeves, who was sort of the maybe mousy but charming kind of guy. He was much more Clark Kent than Superman. It is almost impossible to think of Henry Cavill as Clark Kent in an office building. This guy looks like he is sort of on the tightrope between the two. The weird thing about it is, when he's Superman, he looks more like he works in an office building. When he's in his office building clothes, you can tell how athletic this guy is. When he's in his suit, that is an interesting dynamic that it will be interesting to see how they play that off. Is it Rachel Brosnahan is Lois Lane? Again, I'm mentioning this because it is a visual medium. Is she supposed to be notably and meaningfully older than Clark Kent? Because she looks like Courtney Cox, and I don't mean on Friends. I kind of mean right now. It is almost like Superman and Super MILF. It seems like in this movie, a little bit of a strange dynamic between the two of those. Nicholas Hoult looks more like a James Bond villain than he does his character in this movie, and I don't know how to take Nicholas Hoult. He's an actor that is always he. I don't know how to take Nicholas Hoult. I guess that's just the only way I know how to say it. It looks like he could be doing a good job in this movie, but it just there's something about him that takes me out of the movie. So anyway, that's what I have for this.